Well, hello, everybody. I know that some of you have gotten your first contract. You're getting ready to teach, and now you're wondering, oh, what's going to happen here? You know, I've taken college courses, read all the books. Maybe you've gone to some in-services. Maybe you did your practice teaching, and you have some kind of idea, but you're like, I don't know exactly what's in store for me. So I'm going to make a series of videos that will hopefully help you out a little bit with that. And just give you a little bit of background on me. I'll start with the first video of my background, and then we'll start talking about things that can help you out. Okay, but first I'd like to let you know a little bit about me. My name is Gary DeLeon, and I'm a retired teacher, and I've taught for 36 years in different areas. Okay. I started out in the early days, when I was a young kid. I was one of those people who liked school. I wanted to be a teacher. That was my goal. I used to love teaching the smaller kids that were smaller than me. I used to coach them also when I was like 6, 7, 8, well, probably not that young, maybe about 12 years old. And I really wanted to be a teacher. That was something that was in my heart right away. That's not true with everybody. I realize that. Most people who go into teaching, they're usually people who like school. There's a few that didn't, and and for those people, they say, "Well, I want to change things to what I think would be better," and that's great. But the majority of us people go into teaching is because we really like school. I love my classes. I liked going into sports, and my goal was to be a teacher and to be a coach, be a football coach. Well, in high school, I took print shop classes, which you run the printing presses, and these were called offset presses. They had different other types of presses we ran, and I thought this would be a really neat thing to teach kids. And there were 2 schools in Wisconsin that taught industrial ed. That's what you need if you want to be a print shop teacher. And I selected the University of Wisconsin Platteville, which is a little bitty school, maybe 5,000 students, the southwestern edge of Wisconsin. Well, I excelled in my printing classes. I knew quite a bit about printing already. My teacher taught us so much that I knew more than the seniors who were, as a freshman, I knew more than the seniors did who were in college. I knew about like color reproduction. We were making color and printing our newspapers in color when I was a senior. It was pretty cool. And they hadn't done anything like that yet. Well, I also had to take some other classes. I had to take woodworking, plastics, electricity, and I didn't do quite as well in those. And then when I took my metals class, I almost burned down the shop when I was electric arc welding, and I thought to myself, this isn't going to work, so I have to look for something else. And I remember being a little bit depressed for about a semester, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And eventually I looked at the classes I took, and I said, well, I've been pretty good with, I had really good grades with social studies. Well, that's history, philosophy, psychology, what else is in that field? That's pretty much it. Economics and government. So I said, I did pretty good in these classes. Maybe I could teach this. Also, I realized that the majority of my high school football coaches, the majority of them were social studies teachers. So that kind of falls in line with what I wanted to do. And since I was going to go into social studies, I decided to finish up my college career at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, which is closer to my home. I grew up in Milwaukee. Well, I graduated, got my first contract to Houston Independent School District. I had never been south of Chicago, and that was a big cultural difference there. So I loaded up my car, moved to Houston, and I was blessed to have my aunt and uncle who lived in Houston at the time, my Aunt Jeannie and Uncle Kyle, and they let me stay at their house. They fed me and took care of me until my first paycheck. And then I got my own apartment. And well, not everybody's blessed like that. I'd probably say, if you're a new teacher and you're planning on going somewhere where you're not living, um, you're going to have to save money for deposit on an apartment. Then you're going to probably have a deposit for gas, electricity, and maybe water. A lot of times apartments have that. But I didn't have to do any of that, so I was very lucky. And I got a job during the recession of 1986. There were very few jobs available, so I was really lucky. When I got the contract to a big school district like Houston, then I had to go and apply to different schools to get a teaching job. So the first thing was, in a bigger school district, you apply and they accept you, and then from there you can apply for the different schools. And I taught for 5 years at Jane Long Middle School, which is in Southwest Houston, and I taught all kinds of social studies classes ranging from Texas history to U.S. history and world history. And I also coached for 2 years out there. I coached football, and it was interesting. As I said before, I'd never been in the South. A lot of people are calling me Yankee, and they love their Texas history. That's what I found out. They love dealing with their history of their state. Wisconsin, we were not as excited about this stuff. And then my brother had gotten married in 1991, and family members up in Milwaukee said, "Gary, you need to come back to Milwaukee, be closer to family. Now you have 2 kids," because while I was in Houston, I got married, and we had 2 children, Rosie and Gary. And I said, well, that sounds like a good idea. Then the kids can be closer to grandma and grandpa and some of their uncles and aunts. So we moved to Milwaukee, and I taught for 5 years in adult education. And I had a chance to see what happens to students who don't graduate from high school. A lot of these adults didn't graduate. They couldn't move on and get higher paying jobs unless they got at least a GED. I also taught ESL, English as a second language, to people new to the country. So all that was interesting. And after 5 years of being in Milwaukee, then we moved to El Paso, Texas. My wife's mother had passed away, and the family said, well, who's going to take care of the dad? And my wife wanted to take care of her dad, so we moved to El Paso, Texas. And I got a job in a neighboring suburb, a district called Canutillo Independent School District, and I taught at their high school for 26 more years. And during that time, I did a whole bunch of things. I taught all the social studies classes. You teach basically whatever the administrators want you to teach. I taught everything: economics, government, U.S. history, world geography. I did some credit recovery in a lab where students, if they failed a course, they would have to take the course on a computer, and then they would get their credit. And that was interesting too. It was a little different atmosphere. I taught dual credit classes. I taught AP classes, so I really had a whole mix of things. I was a football coach for 4 years. I was also a track coach for 2, and then I was a student council sponsor for 6 years, and I was also a class sponsor, where you help the class raise money and do different things. I did that for 2 years, and I did a whole bunch of other things. They get you into all other kind of clubs, and like faculty advisory committee, I did that, and the district advisory committee. So I did a bunch of things. Along the way, a friend of mine was taking a administration master's degree program at the University of Phoenix, and he said, "Hey, Gary, I think that'd be a good thing for you to do." And I said, "Yeah, I'll try it." And I did it, and I got real high grades. I graduated with a master's in education administration. However, once I graduated, there were very few jobs, and the other issue was, if I was to become an administrator, I would make like $2,000 more a year. And I thought, well, that's not very good. I mean, the administrators work a lot more hours, and I'm only getting $2,000 more. And I thought, no, I'll just stay as a teacher for my last 3-4 years as a teacher. So that's kind of like what I did in a nutshell. And for those 26 years I taught, and then I had to retire in June of 2023. And the reason I had to retire was I had Charcot neuropathy in the left foot, which is it messes up your foot. Worst case scenario, you can end up with amputated foot. You can't really step on it anymore. And although I wanted to continue teaching, I had the years available, so I was able to retire. And I just made the decision that since I couldn't walk around, I really couldn't do my job the way I wanted to. So I said, yeah, I'm going to step down and let somebody younger do that. But once I retired, I thought about this, and I said to myself, man, I wish I were 18 again, or 22. I just graduated. What I would do different if I was a teacher. There are so many things I would have done different. And that's what I'm going to share with you on these videos. I think, the big number one thing is, I'll share with you before we end this first video, is I wish I had worked on the relationships with the kids a little bit more. I was so focused on the classes. I was focused on how can I deliver the message the best to the kids. And that's important. But, I probably didn't get to know the kids as well as some of the other teachers. And I saw that after I retired. There's some things I could have done a little different. But I did enjoy teaching. I did it for 36 years. And the goal of my videos here that I'm going to make to you is, the goal is to help you have a successful career in teaching, to make it less stressful. There's going to be stress. That's just the way it is. That's what teaching is. But also to make you happy. So you're not one of the teachers you're all mad. It's going to happen. I mean, you're gonna be frustrated at times. But if we can have less stress, help you deal with some of the things that it kind of clogs you up as a teacher with the paperwork and just the things you have to be kind of weary of, so that you don't fall into traps where you have to deal with things. And that's kind of where I'm hoping to teach you some of the things from this savvy veteran here that will help you, so you don't have to make some of the same mistakes I did, or some of the teachers that helped me keep me away from those problems also. Okay, so we'll see you in future videos.